it's okay if he is angry at me and, doesn't like me as much after this, but like, this is your father-in-law and like tensions are really high right now. Everyone's stressed out. I'm not going to allow you to bark at him and like sever that relationship that you need to have with this man for the rest of your life. And I can't give all the sauce away, but,
Okay.
but yeah, like we can literally just like see all the properties that are currently listed on the market, which ones have assumable loans on it.
No way, that's awesome.
What's cool is like you get buyers in houses early on in your career, and then all of a sudden you've got all this listing inventory and you become like a big listing agent.
How do you get it to the point where others are good at this and not just you, and you trust others to give people the Serene team experience? I haven't seen you in a few years, like in person.
Yeah.
You know how like right now everybody sees each other through social media?
Yes.
But then like in person, it's like,
I know, whoa.
Yeah, it's like texting versus calling.
Right, I know.
As soon as somebody calls you, you're like, you're supposed to keep texting.
Like, whoa, yeah. This is like extreme right now. Yeah.
But it's good to see you, bro.
Yeah,
it's really good to see you, man. Well, you're saying it's a good year. Not a lot of people can say that.
Yeah.
Why is it a good year for you?
We're hitting just big milestones. This is our first year where we'll eclipse 100 mil for the year.
Wow, that's awesome, bro.
We'll do like 120 deals.
Dang, no way.
Yeah, so it's just been
Good for you guys.
Good growth, and it's been a crazy year. I mean, like high interest rates, the NAR settlement and all that, but we've been prepared for it, and I feel like are better off in the post-NAR settlement world even than before, really. So it's good.
How has that affected you guys?
The impact is just that we are very confident that we're investing our time with the right buyers, quite frankly, because everything has to be contracted now. Like you have agreements with buyers.
Sure.
So yeah, it's great because nothing's changed. Like our commissions aren't going down or anything like that. There's actually a study put out a couple days ago about how commissions are pretty much the same since the whole settlement. And sellers are still, on the overwhelming majority, still paying the buyer agent's fees. So it's just nice because like there's a much more professional approach with buyers now. Like buyers before, they could just have their cousin who, doesn't really practice but has their real estate license. Like, they could go house hunting on their own and just like throw their cousin a bone kind of thing. Hey, write this offer for me and represent me. You're not really going to see much of that anymore because like you have to have a contract in place now to even show a buyer a property, and that contract says what your fee is. And if the seller isn't paying that fee, you negotiate it individually with each offer now. So, you're going to ask for the fee to be paid with the offer, but if the seller says no, or I'll only pay a certain amount of it, that buyer like could be on the hook for the balance of that. And so there's a lot more scrutiny that I think buyers are using now with like when they are choosing their realtor. And so the ones that are super prepared, our team has all sorts of resources like off-market inventory. We have like an assumable mortgage database as well, like just all these great offerings that we can offer buyers.
Oh, that's sick. An assumable Here, let's move this because I think this is like too much. So you said an assumable mortgage inventory. That how do you collect that information? Like what do you mean? Like
top secret.
Top secret? No, that's
no.
good.
We have a
that's the question
partner
right there, man.
Yeah, no. There's a partner that we work with. I can't give all the sauce away.
Okay.
But yeah, like we can literally just like see all the properties that are currently listed on the market, which ones have assumable loans on it.
No way, that's awesome. So I'm assuming it's like some technology that gets that data, and then you guys have that information that's handy for your buyers, because then your buyers, dude, that's awesome. That's a great idea.
Yeah, no,
wow.
it's great. And so that's where like, sellers have always been really serious with interviewing their agent, probably talking to multiple, figuring out who's the best fit for them, like who has the most professional presentation, who's going to help them accomplish their goals the most. And now that buyers are doing a lot more of that, again, like teams with like resources and capabilities that we have just have such an advantage over like
you guys. I feel like your team, Serene team. I mean, because I've known you for
years,
quite a few years, and even before the Serene team was what it is now.
Sure.
Have you guys always focused a lot on buyers? I've noticed that you guys have had, because I know some teams are like, or some people just, they just do listings.
Sure.
And then your buyers are like, oh, I'll give that to my buyer's agents. But I think where in your case, you're like, you've invested a lot, like in this case, a lot of technology, but a lot of different resources for your buyer. Is that a strong leg in your business?
Oh, totally. Yeah. We have very strong offerings for sellers as well. But yeah, we absolutely love working with buyers. When we first, got to know each other, we were both young, like in our...
What are you talking about, bro? We're still young.
We're still young. But yeah, when you're like a realtor in your 20s,
for sure.
Just the like natural business that you're going to have the easiest time attracting, like your sphere, like your friends and whatnot, they're probably like buying their first house at that era rather than like they have houses to sell already. So at the start of my career, I was like really buyer heavy. Like very, very much so. And what's cool is like you get buyers in houses early on in your career, and then all of a sudden you've got all this listing inventory and you become like a big listing agent because they're of course gonna be like selling and moving up and everything. So I think right now we're probably around like 65-35 with it being a little more buyer heavy. But yeah, we focus on both individually, like on our team. Our agents also just work both. I know on some teams it's like, oh no, you only work buyers, you only work sellers. I would not be very happy if I was an agent and I was being told that like I can't pursue a listing with like my friend or something or family because like I'm considered a buyer's agent rather than a seller's agent. So we just train on like both basically, and yeah, everyone does both.
Well, but to close out, to be at like 120 for the year and being 65-35 buyers, like that's, so I can see why you're saying that this NAR settlement would actually work to your guys' favor, because you already had an ecosystem that was focused, that was buyer focused. So that just...
Sure.
It was like good marketing for you. It was like,
well, yeah, it's weird though, because a lot of agents, when they heard, everything that was happening on August 17th, they were like, oh, I'm not going to focus on buyers at all anymore. Like sellers are the only like sure thing. So let's for sure shift our focus. And like, I just knew that was going to be wrong. And I mean, I totally get it. Like listings are awesome. Don't get me wrong. I love listings. There's a lot of leverage with them. Like if you do a listing well, hopefully you can pick up a buyer or something at like one of the open houses that you're doing. You're going to market to the neighborhood. Maybe you can get a neighbor's listing. So I 100% agree that like listings are awesome, and when leveraged right, they can take one deal and turn it into multiple. But like, oh my goodness, let's not like discredit how awesome it is to like, get a lot of buyers into houses. Like it's very rewarding, I would say. Like that's one of the most fun parts of real estate is when you're helping like a first-time home buyer achieve like the American dream of home ownership. It sounds cheesy, but that is like by far the coolest part of it. You're handing keys over, and like we get paid. Sometimes the listing side gets paid a little bit more, but there's higher costs on the listing side too. So at the end of the day, like you're probably netting close to around the same ish. And yeah, we've just never scoffed at the idea. Like it's not a problem to me that like we're a little more buyer heavy. I don't see that as like something I have to fix in my business or anything. It's like, we love our buyers, and again, they turn into sellers down the road. So
I've been in the real estate industry for I think like about 11 years, and this whole time, bro, I've never bought a house. Never bought a house.
Sure.
I've been focusing on building businesses, and the thing is, like every time I have like a good down payment and everything's ready and I want to buy a house, instead I invested in a business.
Sure. That's what business owners do, though.
Every time,
most business owners are like the last to join the home ownership ranks. Yeah,
it happens it's happened for the past 11 years. Like, do I want to do that, or do I want to invest in this business? And that's what I've been doing up until this year.
Nice.
So I'm actually currently like, we have an offer. My brothers are realtors.
Nice.
And so, they're helping us out through this process. So it's funny, like navigating it from a buyer's perspective, because you're in it, but until you're in it, like you're
totally.
It's just everything makes sense,
Right.
So
totally.
So we're currently in negotiations with this current house, and it turns out that we took the photos for that house. Like, yeah, bro. I didn't know though, because I was we went to check out the home, and it wasn't until we submitted the offer, like, wait a second, I think I know the listing agent. Wait a second, we've been working with her for years.
Right.
So we're currently there.
That gives you a little help,
Yeah, a little bit. But it's just you're right, because you can't discredit buyers, and that feeling of like handing over the keys, like this is gonna be my first set of keys that I ever get, so to me, I'm like, this is a big deal for me.
Oh yeah, huge life accomplishment. Yeah.
It's a huge deal for me, and so, but right now is where I'm seeing, like, and I'm telling my brother as well, you guys gotta fight, you guys gotta, I know they're saying this, but I need you guys, I need pit bulls in there in the game,
Exactly.
I need a dog in the game.
Yeah.
And so, are you guys like that? Like with your buyers, is that part of the reason why you think that you guys are 65-35 right now?
Just because we're like good negotiators and strong with our buyer.
Well, like I'm saying, like, how do you, because there's challenges with being a seller's agent, but I feel like the challenges that come with a buyer's agent are like a lot more emotional, if that makes sense. They're both emotional.
They both can get pretty emotional, yeah.
But I feel like a buyer's agent is like dealing, bro, with like a bunch of breakups.
Yes. No, you wear so many different hats as a buyer's agent.
Well, what I'm saying, like it's like you're dealing with a bunch of breakups, because even if you like the home and you submit an offer,
right,
but you didn't get chosen, but you got emotionally attached to this person.
Yeah, no.
Or house,
We really preach that, like, do not get emotionally attached. Quite frankly, even once your offer's accepted, like, who knows what's gonna happen at inspections and all. So like, until we're like on that downhill kind of slope where like we've removed our inspection contingency and everything looks pretty good with the loan, like that's where you can like get fully enamored. Because it can actually be really just bad for the buyer, actually, if they get too invested and then they cancel. Like the worst thing a buyer can do in that is like want to lick their wounds for 2 months before they get back in the game. Like if you miss an opportunity, like it's like, no, like we're going out this next weekend. Like we have to keep pushing. And sometimes a buyer like will fall in love with this one house, offers aren't due for like a week later or whatever, and they're like, oh, I just don't even want to see anything else, like, until this one. It's like,
nothing's ever going to be good.
We should probably play the field until we know, that this.
I'm never going to get married.
Right. Yeah.
That's fun. Nothing works out. But it's so true. And the parallel, I think, fits, because I'm going through it right now. Like it fits. It's like, it didn't work out with this person. Like, I don't want to see another person ever in my life. I never want to get into, I never want to have a girlfriend or boyfriend, whatever it is. But it's just funny because it is very similar. And to make a business out of it is even like crazier. Like to make a business out of, it's like you're matchmaking, Right. So you yourself have to be like totally disconnected, but then empathetic, and then that's crazy, man.
There's so many hats. There's like therapist hat that you wear.
Yeah.
Sometimes, especially if it's like a couple, like, you're almost like marriage counselor, where you're like, guys, like, stop barking at each other. Everyone needs to calm down a little bit here. Like, let's put everything into perspective.
Yeah. That was me. That was me and my wife 2 days ago.
Absolutely. We see it all the time.
That's funny, man.
I had one client, this was years ago, but like her father-in-law was really stepping in, kind of like a little, probably more than he should have. And I knew that she was livid about it. And I told her, I was like, look, let me talk to him. Let me kind of be the bad guy, the one that's like putting him more in his place, because it's okay if he is angry at me and, doesn't like me as much after this, but like, this is your father-in-law, and like tensions are really high right now. Everyone's stressed out. I'm not going to allow you to bark at him and like sever that relationship that you need to have with this man for the rest of your life, and like your kids, his grandkids' life and everything. And so I stepped in and was like, you need to sit down, my guy. And he was actually a guy that I knew as a kid growing up and everything.
That's great.
But yeah, she after the deal closed, she like thanked me profusely, because she was like, I was inches away, Kyle, from communicating in a manner that like would have hurt our relationship. And she's like, the fact that you calmed me down, took the lead on that instead of her doing it. She was like, I really appreciate that. And that's where, especially on the residential side of real estate, like you have to have those kind of like social skills and understand humans and everything on a high level, and enjoy it actually. Like I'm friends with commercial agents, and they're just wired the exact opposite. Like for them, they're like, I could never ever do residential because of what I just said, because of all the different hats you have to wear.
Numbers.
Exactly,
facts.
It's all numbers, and like they're like, I could never just stomach like showing a client a home that was like a great home for them,
deal,
but somebody's like, oh, I don't like,
but I don't like
the color of that wall or whatever, so I'm not going to buy it.
I don't like the aura.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I've had plenty of clients like that. I've had some clients where like we're asked to leave for 5 minutes so they can just like sit on the couch and like deep kind of harmony and everything. And most listing agents, they'll have like music playing, try to set the mood, and I'm like, hey, you got to cut the music. Like she wants it just fully like this. I've had one client that
did you write an offer?
Oh yeah, totally.
Oh, yeah, okay,
she's a repeat client.
Okay, good.
We've gotten her into a few.
Good.
I've had another client whose thing was bathtubs, and so she needed to like with her clothes on and everything, but like just get in the bathtub. Have like a moment or two for herself in there to just really take in like this bathtub experience. Every buyer's got their kind of quirks. Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So throughout the years, you've gotten really good at this, but then you said, well, I don't just want to be good at this and I close all these deals and all that, but I want to leverage, and I want to build others up, and I want others to be able to do this. Therefore, building the Serene team instead of just the Kyle Draper. How do you get it to the point where others are good at this and not just you, and you trust others to give people the Serene team experience?
Great question. Yeah, and that's the hardest part of it, is how do we continue to grow and scale and keep the client experience what it needs to be. But yeah, basically just a lot of training and like really having strong systems in place, having really strong onboarding protocol in place as well. Because you can't just think that like I have it all up here and I can just kind of monitor and like correct like here or there. No, it's like absolutely like everything is like systematized.
Well, and it's so much tougher, I would think, for your type of business model, because it's like you're hiring these people, you're bringing all these people to the team, but it's not like they're getting salaried. I mean, unless they are, but in most cases, 100% of the cases, they're not. No. You're not paying them a salary. Right. You're just telling them, I'm showing you the ropes. Like if you follow my system, you will be successful, and providing some leads or whatever it is that you do. But how do you get them to buy in?
That's the hard part, quite frankly. I mean, they see the success of like other top agents on the team. Like I always like to put the spotlight on my top agents, because like, most people who are joining the team aren't trying to like eventually be like team leaders one day, but it's like, hey, like Howard and Vanessa, there are two top agents on the team. So,
I know Howard, I know Vanessa.
Yeah, you know both of them. Yeah, they've been like OG since day one. And so yeah, it's like, look, like if you follow these systems, like these are two perfect examples of like how you can just be hyper successful and like really thrive on the team. But like people have to have it within them that like they want it and that they're going to do the work. Like I can't put that in people, and nor do I have the desire to do that. Like you either are self-motivated, which is such a prerequisite to being successful as a realtor, or you're not, and you can't figure that out in the interview process either. And so that's really had me evolve my recruiting and onboarding a bit, because when I first started the team, I was growing so slowly, and it was with like being so methodical with like trying to handpick the perfect people, and that was fine, but like way too slow of a growth rate, quite frankly. And now it's evolved much more into like you need to be full-time or close to it. Like if you are a waiter or something like that, that's totally fine. People have to have some degree of income before their real estate's kicking off, and as long as like you're able to make, we have a 9 a.m. Zoom every morning, as long as you're able to make that, and you have enough bandwidth in the day to like lead generate aggressively. Like,
so what does that look like? How many hours on average?
To what, lead generate?
To lead generate and to do that, to be considered full time is what you're saying.
I mean, if you don't have clients yet, like your only job is to lead generate, quite frankly. Maybe do a little educational stuff here and there, but like all you want to be doing is hitting the phones. But yeah, if you're putting in like, I don't know, like 5-6 hours or so a day,
Okay.
like hopefully it's more, but you know, the agents who are like, who have like 9 to 5s and they're like, oh, trust me, I'm going to hit it hard after work and on the weekends, like that just doesn't work for our organization. It easily could for others. But
I see.
You know, one of the things that we provide are our leads, you know, and I can't give a lead to somebody that like is going to be unavailable and they can't show property. You know what I mean? It just like,
Where do you get your leads from?
all over the place. Like we've got a lot of good partnerships with, you know, like online lead companies like Zillow, HomeLight.
All right, let's start there.
Movoto.
Zillow. How do you like Zillow right now?
That's a very politically charged question. Yeah. Zillow is like the titan of our industry, right? Yeah. And they're just the behemoth, and they're a company that like is very polarizing with agents. There's a lot that basically say that Zillow is like destroying our industry. I'm of the mindset that, you know, I want to operate around like what I can kind of control. Like I'm not in a position to like change if Zillow is going to be around or not. I know that Zillow is such a powerful player, so like I want to have an alliance with them. I want to be in partnership with them. Because you know, I think especially running a large team and the responsibilities that I have to like provide for all my agents,
sure.
I just think that's kind of a part of it actually. So, you know, they're some of the most expensive leads, but they are bottom of funnel, quote unquote, meaning that like they're consumers who are on a real estate website who are, you know, looking at a home, wanting to get connected with an agent to show them that home.
Raised, yeah.
Yeah, like that's different than more of like top of funnel, which could be like pay-per-click or something like that, where they're more like starting to explore and get a sense of things. Like there's pros and cons to working each of those leads, and we work like top of funnel and bottom of funnel leads. I'd say a pro of bottom of funnel would be obviously they're a lot closer to transacting. A con is that they're expensive leads. And, you know, there sometimes could be a little tricky to like have loyalty and allegiance, because if they're that far down the sales funnel already, they've probably registered on realtor.com, Redfin. So they've got agents barking at them from all these different directions. And so the goal there is like, how do we provide a lot of value so that they view us as like the agent that they want to commit to, rather than just like the door opener for this like one property they want to see or something. And then with top of funnel leads.
So then what's your process to keep them? Because you're paying for, essentially you're paying, and it's not cheap. What is it, like $750 per like?
I mean, it all depends
it's expensive,
on where. Yeah, we're buying right now in the 90026 zip code, which is like Echo Park.
Yeah.
I think our leads are like around 400 a pop there.
So you're paying about $400. They introduce these people, and a lot of the times it's like they want you to, you know, be there, open the door somewhere in a house. Do you have like a whole system where of what you do when that interaction does come for any of your, for your buyers agents?
No,
what does that look like?
We practice that tremendously. So, you know, what you want to do is like just get the showing scheduled, right? Like don't worry about like huge commitment conversations yet. Don't worry about their financing yet. Like if they want to go see a house and they're a complete stranger, like just do everything in your power to show them that house.
Show them the house.
Yeah, exactly. And that oftentimes means like you don't necessarily want to like start answering all these questions, you know, that they might have about it, because
so don't answer anything except for what time can you meet me there?
Yeah, Zillow literally teaches ALM, like close for the appointment. That's the A.
Yeah.
The L is location. What other properties are you interested in? You know, because obviously you don't want them like hanging up and like just calling another Zillow agent to go show another. Like
okay,
it's like, hey, let me show you everything you want to see here.
Sure.
You know, and then M, motivation. Like, hey, just curious, what's like motivating you to, you know, be interested in like checking homes out right now?
Got it.
And that's it. Like a good Zillow initial call is like a very short call, because the longer it goes on, they might start asking all these questions, and then your answers might be like, oh, well, in that case, I don't want to see the house anymore. Click. That was a $400 hang up.
Hang up.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the strategy is like give them what they want, like show them the house, and then you really want to like pivot that into a buyer consultation.
Once you're in front of them.
Exactly. So if the house is vacant, you know, it's called like the kitchen island, you know, buyer consultation. You know, you're just kind of setting up shop there, and you're just casually asking all the same kind of questions that you'd be asking, educating them the same way as if it was more formal, where, you know, a buyer was like, hey, you want to meet at Starbucks? And, you know, I have a, so it's really the same kind of thing there.
Right.
If the listing agent's showing it, you obviously can't do it like that. So, you know, I've had like 15-minute conversations just like at the client's car, or if you're really doing a good job, you're letting them know ahead of time that like, hey, I want you to like save a little extra time after our showing for us to go to Starbucks so that we can sit down, grab a coffee. I can understand a bit more about what you're looking for. And it's in that moment where you're really showcasing like your value. So again, like access to off-market inventory, the like assumable loan database, like we've got other cool value adds, but like
that's awesome. That's
where
such a good idea, man.
Yeah, that's where you really want to showcase and then differentiate.
You show them, hey, look, this is the difference between me and any other person you call. They'll just show you what you send them from Zillow, but here's my value. Here's like here's what I'm bringing to the table. That's going to make your experience and what you're trying to do a lot better.
100%.
That's good, man. That's awesome.
100%.
Oh, that's great. No wonder you guys are killing the game, and
we're dialed.
In your you guys are dialed in. No, it's amazing, because that's exactly what it is. It's you guys have like different options and different choices for people other than the regular, you know, they can look homes up on Zillow and, you know, call other agents to show them other homes as well. So you're really setting yourself apart. Therefore, it makes sense to spend $400 a lead or $500 a lead, whatever it is, if you're going to close them.
Yeah, exactly. And you always have to track your numbers. You have to be ROI positive 100%. With anything. But
but it's so interesting, because if the person that met you only knew that it's costing you that much money, because they don't know.
They have no idea.
Yeah, they have no idea. But if they knew, like, hey man, this guy's spending $400, $700, this guy's spending all that, or this girl, they're spending that to just show you this home for the opportunity that you would give them an audience.
Yeah, no. And there's times where you get really frustrated. Like sometimes a buyer who's already committed to a buyer's agent, they think they're doing their agent a favor by like just going through Zillow to schedule a showing.
I see.
And you can't like call Zillow up and say, hey, can you refund me? Like this one already is working with an agent, you know? So like, and that's just part of it. You know, there's gonna be some degree of loss there. I had a client years ago that was like already totally working with me. Like we'd shown him a bunch of houses and everything. Like, I don't think he was being disloyal really or anything, but like, you know, I pick up this lead and I'm talking to this client, and I'm like, wait a second, Mike?
Bro.
Yeah. And he's like, yeah, like Kyle? I'm like, bro, like don't ever do this again.
Dude, you just cost me $400.
It cost me $400, and thank God I answered, you know, and not some other Zillow agent around town, you know. Like,
that's funny.
But yeah, the consumer doesn't really know. But so yeah, we educate our clients too. Like, do not, like, we will schedule everything for you. Like, do not think you're doing us favors. Like, because that's happened for sure before too, where like, you know, you're a Zillow agent taking a Zillow call, and you show up to the appointment, and there's the listing agent, there's you, and then there's the buyer's agent, and you're like, oh shoot, like this is awkward.
That's
like
crazy,
like,
bro.
I didn't realize that the buyer's agent was showing up too. I thought that we were gonna be that. So yeah, you want to ask some degree of kind of preliminary questions.
So that's Zillow, and then do you take this ALM strategy to all the other platforms that you partner up with?
Yeah, we have a few other platforms that it's the same thing, where like there's a specific home that they want to see. So same approach there. With more top of funnel leads, it's a little different though, because they probably are not quite yet ready where they want, like, you know, to be dealing with the salesperson quite yet.
I see.
Sometimes they are. You always want to ask the right questions, and if just because it's a pay-per-click lead or something does not mean that they're not more bottom of funnel, by the way. We've had a lot of successes this year where, like, you know, we get a pay-per-click lead, and like a month later we're in escrow or closed escrow already. But overall, a lot of times pay-per-click is just more of a longer-term nurture, which I love. Like, that is so fine. Like, I'm gonna be selling houses in a year from now if it takes this guy a year before he's like really ready, right? So that's fine. The cost of the lead is way lower. I think our average pay-per-click is around like $24, $25 a lead or something like that. And there's extreme value if you have good systems in place, really good materials, you're educating them. If they're in your ecosystem for that long, and what I mean by that is, you know, like we're sending them through our search site, like the Serene team search site. we're getting them on their property drips. Like, we don't want them going on other sites. We want them on ours. If we can indoctrinate them into our ecosystem and then provide value over time, give them market updates, we're probably not going to have like super engaged stuff right at the start. If they're willing, great. But a lot of times, they're like not answering our calls quite yet because, again, they just don't want a relationship with a salesperson quite yet. They're not quite there, but we see all the data. That's the other big benefit of having them on our search site is we know exactly when they're like opening up our drips and everything. We know what homes they're looking at. We know price range and areas and all that. So there's a lot of data that we're getting there. And then like our systems tell us when they start like going on our site at a higher frequency, or they start looking at certain properties,
reach
like
out to these guys,
multiple times. Yeah, then it's just like, okay, now it's time to kind of go in. And I can't tell you how many times like they've been in our system for a while, but maybe like 3, 4, 6 months or so is how long it takes them before they're willing to speak to us on the phone. And they basically just like thank us. They're like, hey, like we really appreciated all the stuff you've been sending us over the last like 6 months. We're sorry we've been ghosting you and ignoring you up until now. Like, we appreciated your first-time homebuyer materials. Like, I love first-time homebuyers because it's almost a trade where you educate and then they give you their loyalty, right? So anyway, like
awesome.
That top of funnel is awesome because there is a lot more loyalty than the bottom of funnel, where that they're getting hit from all angles. Like, if you can hit them at the top and provide good value, they're not gonna then go on Zillow and go on Redfin.
So aside from these, because you're saying you send them the drip campaigns, you do all that stuff. What else do you do to, like, what are the touches that you do that keep them, that build the relationship and build rapport with them? Like, what do you do?
First-time homebuyer materials. So really good educational like PDFs. There's a like 30-minute video I made that just kind of would be the
explains
equivalent.
The whole process.
Yeah, exactly. Explains the whole process.
That's awesome. And that's it, bro. Those are great, man. Process videos, I think, are phenomenal, and they really are great. Like, especially for loan officers or realtors or just anybody that has a service-based business, in which it's kind of like a process.
Yeah.
Even contractors, I could see how they would benefit from that. But it's learning how to leverage these things, and that's what I see, that young entrepreneurs, they just kind of they get these things quick. Whereas people that have been in the game for a long time are like, they don't know how to leverage these things. But I think it's very important. Like, you made a video where you just sat down and you just explained the whole process as if you were having a conversation with a first-time home buyer.
Yeah.
But that conversation right there, you leverage your time, because how many times has that video been seen now?
Oh, a lot. Hundreds, yeah.
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 And you're building a relationship with the people.
Right.
Through that video.
Some clients also, by the time we get into escrow, they're like, we've watched your video like 6 times. Like, every time we get a little nervous or like, what was that again?
Wow.
They're like, we just go back to your video. And it's cool because like it gets to a part in the video too where it's like, okay, now the offer's accepted. Now we're starting the escrow process. So, they're kind of reminded as well, like, hey, here's just a heads up of what to expect now that our offer's accepted.
Man, I think making videos is so important. Yeah. And look, you don't have to get all crazy, like have a crazy studio or do anything. Like, you could do it from your office with your computer camera. It doesn't have to be professional.
Totally.
But what I'm saying is that you don't know the impact that those little things have. That person you said watched the video 6 times. It's like every time I felt apprehensive or nervous or whatever, I would go back to that and I would get reassurance.
Right.
What was also happening is that they were falling more in love with you every time that they would see the video.
Sure, yeah.
They were like building more and more trust.
Right.
You know what's funny? Like, I did these videos for Home Sweet Home. I did videos on how to download stuff from Dropbox and then how to upload it onto the MLS.
Right.
You're like, well, I need a video for that.
A lot of agents do.
You need a video for that.
I know agents' technological shortcomings.
Yeah.
I'm very aware of those.
You need a video for that. So I made a video for that, and I made it years ago, and then years later, someone's like, "Oh, I know you," like a client of ours. I know you. You've helped me out so much. I'm like, I've never met you. He's like, yeah, the video you made, but it's so true. And so if you have, what I'm saying is, like, if you have an idea for a video or something like this, do it.
Yeah.
Like, do it. You don't know the impact that stuff like that can have. But it's the same with anything else. Like, you got this idea for assumable loans, which we keep coming back to because I think is genius. Like, it's really good, bro. It's really genius. You have this idea of off-market deals, right? But I think that's when you have an idea and you don't make anything of it, obviously like a big dud. Like obviously nothing
Right.
will happen. But as you build these things, it's like you're building more strength to your business. You're building more like avenues. Eventually they become streams of income.
Yep.
And so, you know, I think that's great that you're doing that, bro.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's great.
you,
So
man.
so you're saying top of funnel and bottom of funnel. I have a question.
Yep.
Because, you know, I've been meeting with, you know, quite a few people here, and, you know, this is a new podcast. We're just filming a bunch of stuff, and it seems like a common theme between a lot of entrepreneurs is show up and stay a while. What I mean by that, it's a Jim Rohn quote. And so what that is whatever you choose to do, whether it's Zillow, pursue top of funnel leads, pursue bottom of funnel leads, whatever it is, door knocking, whatever it is. You got to show up, meaning do the work, and then stay a while.
Yeah.
Which is continue to do the work. And I think what happens a lot is that, you know, people follow the shiny pennies. So they say, look, Kyle's like, the reason why he's closing so many deals is because, look, his social media is like, he's doing well on social media. And so they follow that. And so they try to build up a social media presence. Do it for like 6 months.
Yeah.
And then they don't close anything because it's like, man, social media sucks. And they go to door knocking, and they
Right.
door knock maybe one round around the thing, and they get rejected.
Right.
And then it's like door knocking doesn't work.
Right.
And then nothing ever works because you didn't not only show up, but you didn't stay a while.
Yeah.
But I think it's the same with like when realtors come along, like they're like, I want to build a team, or I want to be, you know, close 100 deals by myself, or I want to build a team, or I want to be a broker, or I want to do this or that.
Mm-hmm.
You have chosen to build Serene team, and you've continued and you persevered, and that's been your thing for the past how many years?
We launched right around COVID, so about 4 years or 4.5 now. I
Really,
guess.
4.5? I thought it was way longer.
I was branding as Serene Team before I like had a bunch of agents.
Oh, I
had
see.
one agent,
Yeah.
like this kind of young guy. So we were kind of calling ourselves Serene Team a little bit before, but like when I got really serious, like when I approached Howard and Vanessa and hired like staff and everything, it was like right when COVID. It was just before COVID hit. Yeah.
Dude, hiring staff. How was it when you hired your first like on staff person? And
Great. She's still with us to this day.
Well, I know you're saying great, but I'm saying like think about how did you feel at that time? Like it's a big risk. You're like, I'm gonna hire someone and I'm gonna pay them this much money. Like, how was that?
I was actually really excited about it because my whole background is when I was in my 20s, I sold real estate to finance my record label, and
Sorry. Okay, hang on.
Yeah,
okay,
that's a whole other story.
There's a whole. All right, this is great. Okay, you did what? Say it again.
I was slinging houses to just generate revenue to pump into my record label.
Sure.
And
so you were slinging homes.
Yeah. No, I got into it literally just as like a financial engine for this other business.
So are you a singer? Are you a musician? Or what are you?
I was like in high school, I was like rhythm guitarist, lead singer of like an emo band basically. But I
awesome,
like
bro.
my best friend was a really talented music producer. And
Yeah.
so we were like, you know,
Let's do this.
doing sessions. I wanted to
Wow.
get us our own recording studio and we did. And then things got way out of control when it was like, let's be a record label. Because the recording studio, you know, once we built it and everything, the overhead was pretty much just rent, you know, not bad.
Sure.
The record label got out of control financially, absolutely out of control.
What do you mean?
Just spending, tour budgets, merch budgets, music video budgets. We were like, you know, we owned the studio, so a lot of studio time, but we weren't getting paid for the studio time, you know what I mean? So just huge expenses. And the better I got at selling houses, the more income I had to invest in it. So our music video budgets went from like the scrappy early days of like $2,500 a pop, and the last video that I did was $25,000. And then we spent $1,500 on YouTube ads to just get like a few 100,000 views. Like the whole thing made no sense. It was absolutely financially just silly. Like the model is kind of like just throw gasoline on the fire until, you know, it catches.
Something happens.
Yeah, and we threw a lot of gasoline for a lot of years and had a great time. Like I'm so glad I had all that experience, but it shifted over time to where real estate I loved and I knew I was really good at it and I knew I wanted to grow, but I couldn't because all my money was going into the music side, and I had staff on the music side too. And so it was just like, wait a second, you know, like right around when I turned 30 was when it was like, okay, like, you know, it was a great run, but like I want to shut that down and like really then expand in real estate. I like, you know, and launch the team and everything, get staff in real estate to like help me grow and everything. So back to your question, how did it feel when I hired my first like real estate admin? It felt great because it was years coming, and I was used to having staff in this other industry where all I did was lose money. So I was like, this staff's actually going to help me grow money, and it was really exciting. It was something I'd wanted for years.
Okay, so well, it's and essentially okay. So you started in high school. You're like, I have this dream. I want to build a studio, but then I want to have a music label. And so with that, you were attracting talent. And you'd be like, oh, that's a good band, though. That's a nice band. Hey, do you guys want to come record at our music studio? So they would come record at the music studio in hopes that, you make an album, they would sell a lot of albums? Was that kind of like the dream? Was that kind of like the...
Yeah, not all the clients that we like recorded and produced, like we wanted or ended up on our label. You know, a lot of people were with other labels and then we were producing them. But like the revenue on that is... you know, you have like producers typically have like a few points on the master. Yeah. And then if you're involved in the songwriting process with them, then you also have like publishing income. Like every song, the money is split between like the master, which is the like actual song, like the product of it. Okay. And then the publishing, the songwriting of it. Yeah. And so, yeah, we would be like pretty much on both sides of that to a degree. When you're the label, you own the master. So it's not like you have a point on it. It's like, you know, you own it, and then you're sharing with your artist kind of a thing. And
so in that way, so if you have like a breakout artist, well, then that pays for the frivolous expenses and all that stuff.
You're investing in lottery tickets. Like
it's like a dream.
Every single day was like we're just building another lot. Like every new song that we would put together was a new lottery ticket. Yeah. And we just never quite cashed in. We came so close on a lot of different things. Like we were inches away from opening up for Billie Eilish on like one of her big first like national tours. Like everybody had signed off on our artist being the opener except Billie. At that time, she was like just very committed that she wanted like kind of high energy hip hop as her opener to like kind of contrast from her, and our artist was a little more like in her lane. Yeah. So like that was super close.
So it just didn't close, or what happened?
Everyone was on board except for her, so she shut it down.
Oh, she shut it down.
Yeah, but her like her booking agent was like on board. Our booking agent was on board. Wow. But yeah, all good. We also had this is like so frustrating. We had this was a 6-figure Olympics placement opportunity where they were reaching out for us to use our song in this like Olympics commercial. And at the time, I had hired a kid to redesign our website. And so our website said under construction, but like contact Kyle at this email. And there was a freaking typo in the email. And so it's...
Are you serious?
Yeah, it's ironic because I'm not even the guy to get in touch with. Like we had like publishing representation. We had all the proper channels. Dude. But for whatever reason, these people were trying to come to it through me rather than... Yeah. I take responsibility. Like
And what, you missed that email?
Yeah, well, it never got to me because there was a typo in it. So finally, it like gets circled back around, and by the time we were engaging with them, they just went with like a plan B. Because they were like, shit, we can't get a hold of these guys.
We can't get a hold of you. Dude,
that would have been $100,000. It was $100,000 placement. So financially, that would have been huge for us because all we did was just bleed money in music. And from an exposure standpoint, it would have been like a huge national like spot, right? So we were like so close on so many different things. But honestly, like at the end of the day, this sounds a little unfair to my like music partners back then, but like I'm almost, happy that we never really had that kind of hit, because had we had that,
it would have kept you longer.
It would have kept me a lot longer. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I'm so appreciative that like the business that I'm in real estate, the model is like, you know, have a really good plan and execute that plan well. And then it takes a little bit of time, but like you reap the rewards. And I love that. And with music, you know, you can have great talent, a great product, have a good plan, but then there's this like X factor that's like out of your control.
Yeah.
And that was just so frustrating for me. And I've seen it too. Like some of my buddies that like kind of like went off when you know we were right there, and then they popped off, and we just never really did. None of them are actually one artist is kind of still doing her thing, but just about everybody else had like their moment and then fell off. And so for me, I would just be so stressed out if like if like my livelihood, you know, I don't have like kids or anything yet, but like I eventually want that. Like I would just be so stressful that like my livelihood was so predicated upon like this magical thing continuing to happen over and over, rather than real estate is just like you just execute, you know, and it's very rewarding. And I need that stability basically. And it's so funny because like real estate is not a stable industry whatsoever, right? But compared to entertainment, oh yeah, a lot better.
And I see the wisdom, especially in, because you were doing it like you were, as you call it, you were slinging homes back then. Because what you're telling me with that is you were slinging them is you were just good at this task that would bring in money, but you weren't building a business.
No, I mean naturally I was kind of building but like
obviously, but you weren't intentional at the time.
No.
Of like, no, I want to turn this into a business. And I actually see wisdom in the opposite, in first building the business that can then fund the, you know, the childhood dreams, like all this stuff. Like, so if later on you come back to it and you're like, okay, well, I have X amount of money to play lottery with these artists, whatever. Well, at that point, I guess it makes more sense. But I mean, then you hear all these stories of how people did it, and then they had
we were close,
crazy
like,
things,
we were so close to being one of those stories, but you know, again, we didn't hit it, and I think in the grand scheme of things, I am a little grateful that we didn't, because
in retrospect,
I love where I'm at now. This is something that I can do. You know, as long as I want, you know, I'm not dependent on anyone else really. So yeah, it's all good.
No, and it makes a lot of sense, because, you know, this is something that there is an X factor, for sure, but it's not as huge as the other thing. But you're essentially doing the same thing, bro. Here you are, you're building a business, and you're attracting talent to your team, and you're providing an ecosystem for them to thrive. But the chances of them thriving are a lot higher than in the other space. Like, and anytime you build something and you're like at a place of desperation rather than a position of strength, it makes it so difficult. Because imagine having to create like from that place of like, bro, if I don't create something that hits, like if I don't get these deals, then, you know, we're not going to eat next. I mean, it's kind of tough to create from that sense. Do you get me?
It absolutely is. And even on the real estate side, you can't have that mindset, you know, because like when you're the agent who like needs that deal to close, you are not going to be representing your client's best interest that well. You know, like you're going to be the one who's like really pushy, and, you know, like you're going to be more upset about the deal falling apart than your buyer would or something. And that's where bad business like totally happens. Like you always have to just be in a place of comfort, I would say, to like do the job like responsibly, right? And like be okay to walk away from a deal. Be okay. Like this happens all the time. Like, you know, a seller recently called me up, a past client recently called me up, and he was like, hey, we're gonna have to sell this house. My wife and I are going through a divorce. And I was like, we will only sell this house if like that is 100% like what you absolutely have to do. Because you, like, his whole story was like he got this house, he built the ADU for his kids. It was supposed to be this huge thing for his family. And I was like, we want to consider every single avenue. Like, can we refinance so that you can pay, you know, your ex-wife what she needs, you know, in the settlement? Is there an avenue where maybe you keep it as a rental? Like, is there some, you know, because like, but the thing that would have made me the most money would have been to like, yeah, oh, you want me to sell your house, bro? Like, let's go. But like to be able to zoom out and really think more as like a consultant, you know, to really help advise on what's best for the clients. Like, you know, sometimes you might not be touching that immediate money, but you're going to be so much better in the grand scheme of things if you like properly advise somebody. And when your back is up against the wall, that's where you start thinking less about like what is in my client's best interest versus what is in my best interest.
So did you learn all this like from your parents, from your dad, from like your mom? Like, did you learn this from them?
Yeah, both of them definitely impressed that upon me. And when I was in my 20s, I was just such a like biz development book junkie, went to all the conferences, like, so yeah, it's like, you know, definitely a common theme that you see is, you know, just do what's best for people. You know, don't be so worried about like the immediate money, but if you take care of people and really treat them right, it always comes back. It's cliched, but it's so true. Like it always just comes back way, way, way bigger. Yeah.
No, it's very true. You know, and at the end of the day, you know, you want to build a business that does help people. You know, you want to build businesses and organizations that make this world a better place, that make the quality of life for people, you know, much better. And I know it's kind of hard to really grasp that concept in your 20s, because in your 20s, you know, I think, you know, priorities are maybe different.
Sure.
Or what do you think it is?
Yeah, I mean, a little different. Everything changes. Like I feel like I'm so different in my 30s and in my 20s, but
why is that? Because like, and that's the challenge that I am tasked with. Like, I'm a father of 4. I have 3 boys and 1 girl. They're all under the age of 10, and that's one of my challenges, because I'm like, well, I don't want these kids to learn the lessons that took me, you know, an extra decade. Because I think that there were a lot of lessons that I could have learned, and there could a lot of decisions I could have done differently in my 20s had I been kind of educated that way. And I'm not saying from the school system, but I'm saying more like from my father, you know, from a person that's already been successful and is now just teaching me kind of like the shortcuts and like avoid this or don't do that, or you're gonna have to go through that difficult time but don't give up, you know, stuff like that. So, you know, I feel like I'm hopeful that I'll be able to teach my kids so that in their 20s they can make decisions that I'm making now in my 30s. But yeah, I always point it back to like maybe parenting, you know.
I agree.
Or what do you think?
No, I totally agree. I mean, your parents are going to be the most influential by far, right? And I am very blessed to come from a very good household, and you know, my dad's always been my role model. He built his own like private law practice, basically, so he had that like entrepreneurial spirit for sure. Had that business owner mind and everything. That I mean, he never shoved anything down my throat. Like it was always, and he was so supportive when I was like trying to make it in music and everything. But like,
did he give you that idea of go sell homes and, you know, that way to fund your dream?
Well, funny story. So in college, I was like the number 2 at this studio at the time, and I just kind of had this pivot where I was like, okay, yes, I'm a musician, but I'm not like formally trained in theory. So is being a music producer the best career path? Like, do I have a little bit of a handicap in that if I'm not formally trained in theory? And like in hindsight, there are so many producers that aren't super theory trained, but my mentor at the time was. So I just saw a difference in us.
Oh, I see.
And so that was when I was like, okay, I'm not gonna be the main producer. I'm actually gonna go to law school so that I can represent musicians legally, because I was taking some pre-law at UCLA and like loved it. And then I was working in a law firm for a while, and you know, I graduated, and my
with a law degree?
No, I graduated undergrad with communications and poli-sci degree, but I was like on the track for law school. I took a year off and studied for the LSAT. I was actually like a LSAT success story model for the company I like tutored with. I did really well. Got into USC, which was my #1 choice, but then I just had this epiphany, right? I had been working in a law firm already. I like knew what the law, and my dad was a lawyer too, like kind of knew what that looked like. And so I just had this epiphany that like, I don't care like that my clients are gonna be musicians. Like the actual work that I'm gonna be doing is not going to be fulfilling for me. And if anything, having musicians as clients, like, you know, they show up late, they pay late, you know? So
kind of like having realtor clients.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a kind of similar level of craziness. Absolutely, absolutely. But and at that time, like I said, my best friend was he kind of took over my job at the studio. So you know, he was really good. We were running sessions at night and whatnot, and I was really exciting. I knew that I wanted to go down that path a bit. So I'm sitting my parents down at the dinner table, and I'm like, you know, this whole like law school thing we've been geared up for, and how excited we were when I got into USC. Like, I'm not gonna go. And school was supposed to start like a week later. I paid like a couple $100 like initial deposit or something, but I was like, I'm not gonna go because I got to figure this whole music thing out. And that was when my mom suggested that I get my real estate license, because she got her license kind of later in life, like when my sister and I, were of driving age and everything. That was when she was kind of like getting back into the the professional world, and so she landed in real estate. And so yeah, she was like, get your license, I'll throw you on a deal or two. That way you're making some money while you're figuring out how to make money in music. And fast forward 10 years, I never figured out how to make money in music, and I got really, really good at selling houses.
If you could rewind time, but this time you're the dad and you're looking at your son, how would you advise them? How would you advise him?
Exactly the same as he did, yeah. Because he was super supportive. It was never like, what are you doing, son? It was very much a like, yeah, if you feel strongly about this, like you have to go chase it. I mean, and like even though like I guess at the end of the day you could call it a failure with everything in music, like I'm so glad that I had that experience. The only like really bummer of the whole thing is that like all that money I made in my 20s, like I could have been investing in real estate, and like I'd have a crazy like portfolio right now, but I'm like building that now, so it's like it's all good. But like I would have been one of those guys who's like, oh my God, this guy's so young and look at this empire he's built. But that's all good. I needed to go through that journey. I needed to have those experiences. Like, I toured, we did festivals. Those were life experiences I had to have. And I learned a lot about just business from
and you don't know where those life experiences are going to take you in your 40s or in your 50s, so no, that makes sense. And what's cool about that is, but this is what I think good mentorship and knowing who to reach out for coaching. I think that's really important. I think that's something that I know realtors have tapped into from I want to be a better realtor standpoint. But I think that the concept is greater than that. Meaning, like if someone is like a good father and you see that and you're like, hey, do you have a mentorship program? Because this is I want to do that. Or if somebody you see emulates character, has characteristics that you want to emulate, of being a good husband or of being a good music producer, whatever it is, just reaching out to the right people and getting the right mentorship, I think that's a big shortcut.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, no, I have a coach that, I pay a lot of money every month for.
I didn't even have to ask you, and like I know you have a coach.
Yeah. But you're exactly right. Like, I would have had no clue how to like build Serene team, structure it the way that I did, know who to hire, when to hire them, how to structure their salary and like just all that stuff. It's invaluable to be able to have people around you that like show you how to do it. So like, yeah, my coach is a huge part of that. And then I have like realtor mentors, like big agents down in San Diego that I'm really close with that are running teams where they're like 100 agents, 120 agents, sell, one guy's going to sell 600 houses this year. Like,
that's awesome.
Shout out Kyle Whistle, shout out Mark Pattison. Like those two guys, it's a different perspective than my coach. And so I'd say like with all that together, I feel so confident. Like I'm not scared at all about like, what's our next growth step? Like, what do we do here? Like the roadmap is there. And again, that goes back to like the kind of predictability of real estate. Like, you're following a roadmap that's been done by other people already. And I love that.
So do you see yourself, at least within the next 5 years, building other businesses or just expanding upon Serene team?
No, there'll be other businesses like, definitely like starting next year, we'll probably start flipping houses and stuff. I want to have like a big rental like empire too. So I want to be focused on the real estate space because that was a big problem I had back in the day was like shiny object syndrome. Like I jumped on all these startups. I threw money at like startups here and there. And, I'm not at all like if a friend asked me to like invest in their company, I'm like, I love you, but like I'm not even going to listen to your pitch. Like I've made rules for myself that like I am only investing in like my shit because like I know real estate and I'm going to focus on that. And then once that's all set up, like then sure, we can have these like conversations.
I think there's definite wisdom in that. Just because, especially where you're at right now in the stage in where you're at, it just makes more sense. One thing I was thinking about right now is how you're not you're not a stranger to failure in that you have failed, but the way that you speak about failure isn't like, oh yeah, I failed and I'm such a, loser and I'm such that. Like, it doesn't define you. Like, it feels like failure has kind of empowered you, and it's kind of just, made you a better person, So I could just see that, I see that as I'm talking to you, that even though you've done certain things or been part of certain things, like, they've positioned you at a higher place. It's like you failed up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
every failure is like you failed up.
Yeah, that's like most entrepreneurs. Like, very few like hit it out of the fence on their first swing, like very, very few. And those that do hit it out of the fence on their first swing, I feel like oftentimes have a little downfall because they like haven't gone through the trials and tribulations. They didn't build that foundation. They didn't also just know like really their grit, like who are you as a person? And like between the music thing and I went through a bad divorce during COVID that really like set me back financially, and was in a crazy, crazy position of like, oh my God, like I am broke and I have to grow this team, and like I have like how am I gonna pull it all together? And so like I know that I can take anything down at this point because of what I went through going through that divorce. And like actually I was just referencing my coach, and like I got connected with him right around this time, and so we start talking, and the first thing he says is like, I need to hire like another staff person. And I had already explained to him kind of my whole divorce and how bad financially
I don't think you heard me, bro. I'm broke.
Yeah. No, literally. I was like, I understand what you're saying here, Joe, but like, how am I gonna like, pay this person right now? And he just like kind of looks at me and he's like, well, you need to figure it out. Otherwise, like, you're completely wasting your time talking to me. Like, if you're not able to execute on like the things that I'm telling you here, like, what are we doing? Why are you paying me money right now?
You should be paying them.
Yeah, exactly. And so I was like, whoa, like that was some tough love, but I needed it. And, I just figured it out, like, I had to borrow money here and just do all this kind of crazy shit. But it's the thing that like I will probably on my deathbed be one of the things I'm most proud of is that like, rather than just completely like shutting everything down, licking my wounds and like starting from scratch, basically, like we grew, like we built at a time where I had an $8,500 a month alimony payment and all this stuff. Like just
$8,500 a month alimony payment.
Yeah,
That's
extreme
nuts,
credit card debt.
That's crazy, man.
My credit was destroyed, so I couldn't like borrow like in traditional methods of borrowing the way business owners do it. And I had bankers tell me, because like long story short, just horrible credit card debt, and my credit score really, really sunk.
Is it because of in the marriage? Like, was it because of that? Wow.
Yeah, our lifestyle was silly. Like, we spent way too much money, and then
was this in the same time? Because it sounds like this is in the same time as the music label. Is it?
No, it was right after.
Oh,
so
right
I
after.
kind of had one financial blunder and then a second financial blunder.
Would you say that because the lifestyle in the music stuff that you were saying was kind of frivolous? Like that's one way to.
No. I was very buttoned up financially with. I mean, I wasn't like, my lifestyle was not lavish or anything. It was like investing in what was smart. Well, smart. It didn't work out, but like I was investing in music, not in like a lavish lifestyle.
But then again, it was like a lottery ticket at the end of the day. Because in retrospect, you can look back. You could be like, are you gonna do that? Would you have advised yourself at that time to do that or like buy that lottery ticket? Maybe, maybe not.
It's hard to say, man, because we really did come close on that one. And again, that was one that like was fine. Like if had I not done that, I would wake up somewhere in my 50s and hate myself for not like really going for it. And like we went for it, and so that I'm like fully
I guess what I'm saying is when you're making these choices, which are very high stakes, do you feel like in those moments you attract similar people that maybe end up in a position where you're like, oh well, like what you're saying right there, you ended up in this position where you're paying this alimony. Do you feel like there's some sort of like parallels? Do you think that there are some connections there?
I've been in therapy and everything. Yeah, we've unpacked that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, there's like, And that's again where it goes back to what I was just saying, where it's like when people kind of ask me to invest in their it's like, nope. Like I have a natural tendency to be like, to want to help people. And I've like gone like kind of out of my way in like, like ways that
and that's what I'm trying to get from you and even in our conversation right now, because you're speaking now from a much more healthier place. You get me? Like it's like in retrospect everything makes sense if you go through the healing process.
Right.
So you're speaking right now from like a perspective, a different perspective than you had at the time. And so what I'm saying is, because I see this a lot, I see certain realtors with certain mindsets, and certain things, and it's like, that's unsustainable.
Right.
And if this is what you want, then you got to go through the process. And part of that process is letting go of certain things.
100% right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And like,
it's a lot of mindsets.
Yes, mindset. And like I've built really high discipline after going through everything that I've went through, and knowing that like it is inexcusable that like I put myself in that situation. So yeah, like it's just a different perspective, a different discipline really. And it really, again, like it's given me a different level of confidence, because like I know that that's going to be the worst situation I ever will find myself in my life. I mean, God willing, of course, but
that also positions you as a better leader.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a much better leader in the Serene team.
Sure.
Because of that, situation, and overcoming that, you're a much better leader now. You understand things a lot better, and like what you were saying, a lot of these life experiences have been very expensive, but at the end of the day, they've kind of been investments.
Yeah, seriously, like very expensive education, very expensive. Yeah, yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, bro, that's crazy.
So it's wild, man. Like, and I'm really proud of like what we've accomplished so far, because like going back to that financial mess I was in, I was like talking to bankers, and they were just like, dude, just declare bankruptcy. And they were like, I can't lend to you because your credit is so shot. Like you're in this crazy debt. I was paying $6,500 a month just in pure interest on my credit card. So that wasn't even making a dent on the principal. It was just that. Yeah. And they were like, just declare bankruptcy. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that, because then that makes this like a 7-year kind of like hit pause on all my goals. Because like you can't get loans and stuff, and your credit's shot for a while. And it was actually awesome. This is actually the first time I've talked openly about this. But it's crazy because my financial advisor didn't advise this. My dad didn't know of this. Like all the people that I was like kind of going to for like, hey, how do I get out of this? Nobody had this answer. And then I was talking to a buddy of mine who he found himself in a little bit of credit card debt. And he was like, hey, there's this like nonprofit like debt relief company that like what they do is they freeze your cards. The balances you still owe. So, and I'll be very transparent here. It was about $200,000. Mm-hmm. Like, so, you still owe all that, but like they freeze the cards, and then they negotiate with the credit card companies to lower the interest rate. So on my personal cards, it went from like a 23% interest rate down to like a 2%. And then on the business, there was a little bit higher. It went down to like a 10% rate. So obviously the higher ones are what you want to hit first. And so this company negotiates it down, and then there's like an automatic, they're gonna withdraw a certain amount from like your checking account. Mm-hmm. And so for me, it was like a $3,500 basically like monthly draw on it, but you're actually paying principal down. And so that was the first big step to basically get out of this, like I'm just treading water and drowning basically. So we did that. And that was awesome.
But you bought hope. Like it's like,
oh yeah, that was the hope. That was the hope. And then it's amazing because like this year especially, like we're killing it this year. I've also dipped back into personal production this year, which has really boosted my income. And I closed a $3.35 million deal on Monday. And with that check, I will be fully out of debt.
Get the heck out of here, bro. That's awesome.
Let's go.
That's awesome, bro.
Yeah.
Are you serious? So like,
no, I'll be fully out of it. And like,
man,
I'm
that's
so
awesome, bro.
That was my biggest thing. Like next year's all about just buying real estate.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Man, good for you, Kyle.
Yeah.
That's amazing, bro. Because see, that's like a full circle story right there. Like that's, Dude, that's amazing.
I'm so pumped up. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, like everyone was just like, you just got to declare bankruptcy. And I was like, I'm not gonna do it. And I'm so happy that I found that out. And did you watch this show Tiger King?
No, I haven't.
It's a wild one.
I haven't.
There's this one famous meme from the show where like the main guy's like, I will never financially recover from this. Yeah, I will never financially recover. Yeah, and I thought about that silly meme so often when I was going through all this, because I was like,
to find that moment in your life.
Right. I was like is this like, am I gonna pay the price for these poor choices for like my whole life?
I'm the Tiger King.
Is this a 10-year kind of financial thing? And you know, the fact that like that was all going down like 2021, 2022-ish, and
man,
you know, just
crazy.
a couple years
That's
of just
awesome,
like
bro.
hitting it. Yeah.
Good for you, Kyle. That is so cool. That's such a good story, because, you know, at one point in our lives or another, we all find ourselves in similar situation, you know, and it's like, is this the end of me? Like, is this, you know, I'll never financially recover. I'll never emotionally recover. I'll never, you know, whatever, recover from whatever loss you're experiencing because of that situation. But I just love stories like this, because, you know, it wasn't instantaneous. You had the, you know, the easy way out. Well, it's hard. I'm not gonna say easy way, because in some situations, like, you know, that's really like you might have no choice. You know, 200 grand to someone can sound like, oh, that's nothing. You know, some people was like 3 million. You know, 3 million.
Yeah, it's all relative. Exactly.
Yeah, it's all relative. I know someone who was 3 million in the hole.
Yeah.
You know, and now it's like I in retrospect it makes sense. Like I know his story. But just to see that, man, and to see everything that you've built, like, it's encouraging. It really is, because it just shows that there's always hope.
Yeah.
You know, there's always hope, as long as you're willing to fight, as long as you're not, you know, you're gonna give up, and go through the process, because you've had to go through the process. I mean, it's not fun every month getting $3,500 taken out. It's not gonna be fun right now when you close this deal, being like, all right, I know this money, I can keep paying the $3,500.
It's actually super fun. Yeah. It's super fun.
Well, if you have that mindset, you know, so so, but that's awesome.
Well, and I understand how like real estate and like applying for mortgages work and everything, and like for me to qualify for a nice like big mortgage, because I want to get like a, you know, maybe a 4-unit or something like that. You know, what the lender is going to look at is like, what are all of your monthly debts, right? And so I want to get this $3,500 a month totally off. So that's why, like, every time I'm like nice and flush, I close a nice big deal, it's just like, yeah, here's 50 grand, just like, you know, wipe a few of the cards out, like, and we've just been hitting that kind of, especially this year, been hitting that a lot, and this is the final one now. So like, really pumped.
Bro, that's awesome. Are you you said you're not married? Okay, I mean, but
not
that's
married. Have a girlfriend. She's awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
But where I was going with that is that, you know, now it's like you're a lot more like aware of who you're in association with, whether it be someone that you hire, whether it be someone that you're in relationship with,
big time.
Whether it's like now you're like,
that was a huge part of it. Yeah. And that was something I needed to really internally figure out, is like, how did I get myself into this, and what are the lessons that I need to like learn to like avoid ever getting anywhere near kind of, you know, a dangerous, messy situation, kind of like that. So it's like absolutely transformed kind of like my values in terms of, you know, like who, like you just said, you know, who I'm attracted to, who I let kind of enter my world, even just on a business level. Absolutely.
What do you say some of those lessons are?
I had a thing basically of like, you know, playing with fire is fun, right? Like a little danger is fun, but like it's fun until you get burned, right? And I got burned real good, and so that just has rewired in my brain that like that is not fun anymore, because like you know, it's like a little kid has to like learn things, and you hurt yourself and then you realize, oh, that's dangerous, I need to avoid it. That's basically what I did at like, you know, 31 years old in my life.
But that's so interesting right there. And like even right there, I'm getting a lesson for me as a father, you know, to teach my children and don't shield them from their mistakes. Like if they made a mistake, like let them go through it. Let them experience the pain. They have to experience the pain. I'm not gonna shield them from it. because if not, they're gonna have to learn that lesson in their 20s, in their 30s.
Yeah.
And we don't want that.
Yeah, no. The earlier you can learn lessons, the lower the consequences of these lessons are.
But that is good because, man, that lesson alone, like that's worth so much money. In your case, it's worth a lot of money. In some people, that lesson is worth their life. You know, some people will still be alive.
Yeah, totally. If
they knew that lesson, you know,
100%.
and so. But yeah, I mean, it comes down to obviously immaturities, you know, which we all, you know, experience. But the journey is to become more and more mature, to allow, you know, learn the lessons. But it's awesome, man. It's cool.
Hell yeah.
That's awesome.
No, it's true. And, you know, clearly I'm like comfortable speaking, but, you know, it's like, it's just my experience. It's who I am. And, you know, like, it just is what it is, and it's molded me to who I am. I'm very happy with where everything's at right now. And so, you know, that whole question of like, do you have any regrets, or like, would you change things? It's like, I mean, I went through hell, don't get me wrong, but like it all led to here, and I like here. So no, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't even think that's the question. I think, you know, because you learn so many things along the way, and it kind of shapes you to be the man you are. I think it depends how you take it, right? It depends if you allow the difficult situation, because you could have allowed this divorce to totally end you.
Yeah,
like
damn near did.
Yeah,
Came very close.
Yeah, bro, like you could have allowed that to that S right there didn't exist, wouldn't exist, and you know you're saying if we want to get real dark, you know, I know it can get real dark, you know, I know it can, but I'm saying that you didn't allow that. You know, and bro, I know you're proud of yourself, you know, and I'm proud of you, bro. That's a
thank you, man.
That's awesome, bro. That's
you.
really cool. But hey, man, you know, we're just in the beginning of the journey, and I'm excited to have this conversation in a year from now.
Yeah, totally.
5 years from now, whatever it is, and you know, see what other amazing things. Maybe next time we'll talk about the portfolio.
Yeah, no, seriously, that'll be hold me to that. Yeah,
we'll talk about the portfolio. I'll tell you about my portfolio as well, because now my eyes are there. Like now, me and my wife were like, no, we're starting to build a portfolio. We've been building businesses, and that's beautiful. That's great, but I want different kinds of assets as well. As long as well as businesses. Businesses are great, man.
Yeah,
you know,
100%.
Businesses are great.
And like we touched on earlier, like the business owners, you know, like if you had like a just, you know, very steady kind of W-2 thing where you weren't like investing in something that has such huge returns for you, like when you're investing in your own businesses. You know, if you weren't that, then it's like, like you got to get in as soon as possible with your other investment, you know, but you know, that's like great appreciation and all that. But there's like, for a business owner, there's no better investment that you can make in like your business. Like there's the return that, you know, I mean, look at like what your company was from like day one to like now, like, you know, all the staff that you have, the lives that you know, you're basically responsible for, and all the benefits that you've had on it. Like, you know, don't kick yourself, you know, for delaying this until now. Because,
no, and I would, bro. Before, like you're saying right now, I'm comfortable to speak about it. Before I wasn't. It was embarrassing for me. You know what I mean? Like, like you don't own property, like, bro, like you should be ashamed of yourself, because it's like the definition of success, right? Like it's like, well, if you don't own a house, you're a failure, whatever, you know. But recently, it hasn't even been a long time ago that I've finally understood, like, no, it's not a failure, bro. Like you've been, it's not like you've been frivolous with your money and like been doing dumb stuff. Like you've actually, like, you've invested in things that are meaningful, that are impacting lives, and doing all this stuff. So, you know,
and just built such a foundation. Like
it's a foundation.
It's just a slow build. It takes a lot of financial capital, of the sweat equity. But like, oh man, it just really pays off once you've like gotten kind of to that, like, oh man, like the engine's running well, 100%. Like, you know, I'm not solely responsible for making sure everything's going right. Like that's just so rewarding.
And it's the life experience that you're saying, you know, like if all the businesses were to fail, well, I know how to start another one.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and I know how to do it quicker, you know, so well, it's the same thing, you know. So I think that's the biggest thing. But anyways, bro, this has been a really good conversation with you. Thank you for being, you know, open and, you know, transparent. Of course, love it. You know, it's good stuff. But yeah, man, thank you, bro.
Hell yeah.